The ocean. It covers more than 70% of our planet. A vast, crushing abyss of darkness that hides our world's deepest secrets. Even today, we have explored less of the ocean floor than half the surface of the world. But if you were to dive into these waters 20 million years ago, during the Miocene epoch, you wouldn't just find darkness. You would find the undisputed king of the seas. A predator so colossally perfect, it forced the evolution of marine life itself. Its name translates to big tooth, but the world knows it simply as Megalodon. For nearly 15 million years, it patrolled the warm, shallow seas of a prehistoric Earth. It had no natural predators. It feared nothing. Yet today, the oceans are empty of its presence. How does a 50-foot Leviathan simply vanish from the Earth? The answer is not a bigger monster, but a changing planet.
To understand the fall of the Megalodon, we must first understand its terrifying scale. Hollywood often portrays the Megalodon as just a scaled-up great white shark, but the truth is far more complex and much more intimidating. Otodus Megalodon was a completely different lineage of shark. It reached staggering lengths of 50 to 60 feet, that is up to 18 meters long. It weighed an estimated 60 to 70 tons. That is the equivalent of 10 African elephants, all perfectly engineered for aquatic slaughter. But size means nothing without power. Computer models suggest the Megalodon had a bite force of over 40,000 pounds per square inch. To put that into perspective, a modern great white bites with about 4,000 pounds of force. A Tyrannosaurus rex bit with about 12,000. The Megalodon could have effortlessly crushed a small car, but there were no cars in the Miocene oceans. There were only whales. And the whales were the Megalodon's favorite prey. Its primary weapon was its jaw, lined with 5 rows of serrated bone-crushing teeth, some measuring over 7 inches long, roughly the size of an adult human's hand.
Imagine an ocean, not as we know it today, but a realm ruled by a titan. A shadow 50 feet long, with teeth the size of your hand, and a bite force that could crush a car. This was the world of the Megalodon, the undisputed king of the ancient seas. For millions of years, this colossal shark patrolled the warm, shallow oceans of the globe, an apex predator at the pinnacle of the food chain. No creature was safe. But how did this seemingly invincible ruler of the deep simply vanish? What could possibly bring down such a giant? Today, we journey back in time to witness the dramatic rise and catastrophic fall of the mightiest predator our planet has ever known. Let's travel back about 20 million years to the Miocene epoch. The Earth was a much warmer place, and the oceans were teeming with life. This was the Megalodon's golden age. These were not just sharks, they were marine leviathans. A fully grown Megalodon could reach lengths of up to 60 feet, maybe even more, making the modern great white look like a minnow in comparison. Its jaws, wide enough to swallow 2 adults side by side, were lined with 276 serrated teeth, perfect for slicing through thick blubber and bone. And its main course? Whales. Not just any whales, but the large, slow-moving baleen whales of the time, like Cetatherium. The Megalodon was a specialized hunter, a hyper-carnivore perfectly adapted to take down these marine giants. The warm coastal waters served as perfect nurseries, where young megalodons could grow in relative safety before venturing into the open ocean. For 13 million years, the megalodon's reign was absolute. It was a perfectly balanced system, with the megalodon at the top, maintaining order in the marine ecosystem. It seemed like their dynasty would last forever. But the planet had other plans. As the Miocene gave way to the Pliocene epoch, around 5 million years ago, the world began to change. And not for the better for our giant shark. The planet entered a period of global cooling. Slowly but surely, massive amounts of water were locked up in expanding polar ice caps. This had a dramatic effect on the oceans. Sea levels began to drop significantly, draining the shallow, warm coastal seas that the megalodon depended on. These areas were not just their preferred hunting grounds. They were the crucial nursery areas where their young were born and raised. Without these safe havens, the next generation of megalodons was incredibly vulnerable. The giant shark, once a master of a global empire, found its kingdom shrinking. The warm water bands it relied on became fragmented, isolating populations and reducing their genetic diversity. The world was becoming colder, and the Megalodon, a creature of the warmth, was being left out in the cold. Its perfect world was beginning to unravel, piece by piece. The foundation of its empire was cracking, and new challengers were about to enter the arena. As the Megalodon's world shrank, the stage was set for new competitors. Evolution never stands still, and as one giant faltered, smaller, more agile predators began to rise. Enter the great white shark. While its ancestors had coexisted with Megalodon for millions of years, the new species, Carcharodon carcharias, was different. It was smaller, faster, and more versatile. It didn't need to hunt giant whales. It could thrive on a varied diet of seals, dolphins, and smaller fish. It was the scrappy opportunist, able to adapt to the changing cooler waters in a way the specialist Megalodon could not. And they weren't the only ones. The ancestors of modern orcas, or killer whales, also emerged during this time. These were intelligent, social hunters. They worked in coordinated pods, a revolutionary strategy in the ocean. They could cooperate to take down larger prey, outsmarting their targets. Suddenly, the Megalodon wasn't just losing its habitat, it was facing a pincer movement for its food. The young, vulnerable Megalodon pups in the open ocean were now easy targets for packs of killer whales and even larger great whites. The competition for the remaining food sources became fierce. The king was being challenged from all sides, and its grip on power was weakening with every passing generation. The final act of this epic tragedy was a story of starvation. The climate continued to cool, and the Megalodon's primary food source, the large, blubbery baleen whales, began to adapt. They did one of two things. Some species evolved to be smaller and faster, making them more difficult for the massive, less agile Megalodon to hunt. Others did something even more devastating for the giant shark. They migrated. These whales moved towards the newly formed, nutrient-rich polar regions. The icy waters of the Arctic and Antarctic were a paradise for them, but for the warm, water-loving Megalodon, they were a death sentence. The shark's entire physiology was built for a warm environment. It couldn't follow its prey into the cold. Imagine a lion, king of the savannah, watching as all the wildebeest and zebra suddenly learn to fly and move to a frozen wasteland where it cannot follow. This is the scenario the Megalodon faced. Its larders were empty. The giant shark, a creature that needed to consume over a ton of food every single day just to survive, was now patrolling empty, cooling oceans. It was trapped in its shrinking, temperate zone, a prisoner of its own biology. The once mighty hunter was now the one being hunted by an invisible, relentless enemy, hunger. It was the final, inescapable blow. The end was not a single, dramatic event, but a slow, drawn-out extinction. Isolated, starving, and outcompeted, the last populations of Megalodon dwindled. Perhaps the final individuals swam alone in the vast, empty blue echoes of a bygone era. Around 2.6 million years ago, the last Megalodon took its last breath, and the king of the ocean was no more. Its extinction sent ripples through the marine ecosystem. Without their top predator, whales were free to grow to the enormous sizes we see today. Like the blue whale, the ocean was fundamentally reshaped. All that remains of the Megalodon's epic reign are its fossilized teeth, scattered across the ocean floor and found on every continent. Each one is a tombstone, a silent testament to the greatest predator the world has ever known. They are a powerful reminder that no matter how big, how powerful, or how dominant a species may be, nothing is immune to the forces of a changing planet. The Megalodon's story is not just a tale of a monster shark. It's a profound lesson in the fragility of life and the inevitability of change. Its throne is empty, its kingdom turned to dust, but its legend will haunt our imaginations forever. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the deep past. If you were fascinated by the story of the Megalodon, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries of our planet is history. Let us know in the comments what ancient creature you'd like to see us cover next. Until then, stay curious.